Welcome back to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. My name is Lydia and I'm a wedding photographer at Lydia Rachel Photography and your host. I've just got back from a couple of weeks in the South Island, which was really lovely. Photographed a wedding down there and I went along to Wild Hearts Queenstown. So great to meet some of you there. And we're really just at that time of year running headfirst into wedding season, which is crazy. So exciting for all of you 24, 25 brides and couples. And it's about to get busy for us vendors, which we love. And I'm so looking forward to hopefully a bit more sunshine as well. I do have a really exciting announcement coming this week too. I know it's really annoying when people say that, but keep your eyes out. I will share more soon. On today's episode, I'm sharing a lovely chat I had with Shania. She got married at a winery in Christchurch. We hear all about her love story and planning process. They very much did a DIY wedding on a budget. Very impressive budget, might I add. I'm talking under 15 grand, which is pretty unheard of these days. And I've had messages from some of you wanting to hear about some lower budget weddings, so hopefully this one is helpful. Definitely like to share a real range of all different types of Kiwi weddings here. But this one was really interesting and she definitely has some great tips. So we'll get right into it. Enjoy episode 63 with Shania. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. So excited to chat all about your wedding.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited. It feels like it was a lifetime ago now.
So to get started with, if you could just tell me a bit about you and your partner, how you guys met and your life together.
So my partner and I have been together for just over 5 years now. We met when we were both back in Dunedin. We actually have quite a cute love story. We met whilst we were volunteering for a children's cancer camp called Camp Quality. So we met on there and then started talking after that. And then he moved into my flat like 4 weeks after we met. And the rest is history.
Love that. Such a wholesome love story, both like doing good in the world.
I know, yeah. My mum had always said to me, like, because I used to volunteer for lots of things, and she always used to say, if you ever find someone at a volunteer thing, at least you know that he'll be a good man.
So good. That's a great tip for single people.
Exactly.
Get
Yeah, yeah.
volunteering.
I
Meet
say that
some
to my
good
friends.
humans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I say that to my friends now who are on like Tinder and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, there's no one out there." I'm like, "You should just go volunteer. You never know what you'll find."
So good. Love that. So you guys dated for a while and then got engaged. Can you tell us a bit about your proposal story?
Yes. So my proposal story is quite funny. It was totally out of the blue. So we were actually in the process of buying a house and we'd moved to Christchurch and I said to Connor, no, ring, let's just get the house and then, we can go from there. And I was actually at a brewery with my friend and my dog, and Connor said, "Oh, come home, we're gonna go out for dinner." And I was like, random, but okay. And then he said, "Let's get dressed up." So we got all dressed up, and he said he was taking me to this cocktail bar. But then he goes, "Let's take the dog for a walk along the beach." And I remember saying to him, "What are you talking about? Why you being like, we're not taking the dog for a walk, we've just got dressed up." And I was arguing with him, like, "No, no, no, I don't want to go for a walk." And then we went to a beach just around the corner from us, and it was quite sad. It actually had started raining because he'd planned to do it on the beach, but it started raining just out of the blue. So there was a forest behind the beach, and he said to me, "Oh, like what's on the dog?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." So I like turned around and was looking at her, and then when I turned back around, he was on one knee and just proposed to me, which was crazy. And quite funny because I think if he'd ever planned to do anything extravagant, I'm like the planner in our relationship. So if he'd said to me, "Let's go away for the weekend," I would have been like, "Oh, I'm getting engaged this weekend."
That's so good. Definitely got the surprise factor then.
Yeah, it was. It was just such a weird feeling. Like, I can remember I was telling him to get up off the ground because he had cream pants on, and I was like, "Get up off the ground!" And then I was kind of like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh."
Oh, I love that. So nice. And had you always been one of those girls that dreamed about your wedding? Did you have a specific vision in mind and for what you wanted? And what were kind of those first steps, finding a venue, all of that?
Yeah, so I had always thought about my wedding. It's actually quite funny when we just not long before we got married, my mum had actually found a book that I had made when I was a kid with like cutouts from wedding magazines, like back from the early 2000s. So you can imagine what that looked like. So yeah, definitely had always dreamt about my wedding. I always knew that I wanted to get married in a winery of some description, and then we had moved to Christchurch. Obviously we got engaged here and we bought a house here, so we were sort of like, oh, let's just do it here. And reached out to a couple of venues. We went and visited a couple, and then we went to the venue that we picked. And just like the moment we went there, we just knew that that was like where we were going to get married.
Definitely a beautiful spot that you chose. And what were kind of the most important elements for you, your sort of top priorities when planning your wedding?
So I really wanted obviously the vines, but I also kind of wanted to get married in a forest. I kind of wanted the best of both worlds. So picking somewhere that let us have our own caterers, our own bar, and really nice outdoor space was crucial to like what we were sort of planning, because we did quite a DIY wedding.
Can you tell me a bit about your wedding outfits, your dress? How was that whole process, finding it, getting it made? Yeah.
Yeah, that was such a process. It's actually so funny. The dress I picked, I had been looking at before. I remember seeing it on I think it was Pinterest. And I can remember sending it like to all of my friends, and I was like, when I get married one day, this is the dress I'm gonna pick. So when I got engaged, I managed to find the lady who had designed it, and I said to her, are you still making dresses? I really want to buy, one of these dresses from you. And she came back to me and said, no, I've had a baby and I'm not making dresses anymore. And I was like, oh no, like now what? And and then she said, message me when you're gonna go dress shopping and I'll see what I can do. So her and I had kind of been in like conversations like prior to when I actually went wedding dress shopping, and she managed to have she had two samples left, which were a size 12 and a size 14, which were both my sizes. So it was kind of like it was meant to be. But we did actually go to some shops in Christchurch and try on some dresses. I really like one, like non-negotiables for me was lace and long sleeved. I didn't really care like whether it was puffy or like tight fitted. I just knew that that was really like Kate Middleton. I can remember watching the royal wedding, and that was like what I had envisioned, with like the long veil, the long train, really quite vintage looking. So when we did the wedding dress shopping thing, there was like none that I liked. What I don't understand is why wedding dress shops have puffy dresses that are in really big sizes, but like sleek, slimline dresses are all really small sizes. So, I mean, I'm like a standard 12 to 14, which is quite an average size. Going into these wedding dress shops, trying on, lace long sleeve dresses that were tight, which was what I wanted, were like six sizes too small. And, you just can't get a vision for what that looks like. And, the lady's trying to like do it up at the back. And I'm like, it's just not going to work. Like,
Mm.
I just wish there was some more inclusion around that for wedding dress shops. But yeah, I tried on 30, I think it was 32 dresses over the two shops, because I kind of just was really open minded of what I wanted. And I sort of shortlisted three. And then the lady from Kaya Our Bridal said, you can come and try on these dresses once you're finished. But you have to try it on in my daughter's nursery. And she said, you can just have one person come in, because I took my bridal party, my mum and my mother-in-law with me. So mum and I were in her daughter's nursery doing this dress up. And I can just remember the feeling of like putting it on, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the dress. Like I didn't have that feeling with any of the other ones that I'd shortlisted. Like I liked them, and I think I would have been happy if I'd got married in them, but this one just felt like it was meant to be. And I can remember like walking around her lounge and kitchen, and then she's like, oh my gosh, you have to get your bridal party to come in. So we're like all standing in her kitchen. I'm in this wedding dress. And yeah, then we just bought it. I remember we took it home in a new roll bag, because she was like, I didn't think you were going to buy it, so I don't have a wedding dress bag. Like, yeah, it was just so funny. And it was really funny. Like, everyone cried when I put that dress on, whereas no one had the same reaction with the other dresses.
Oh, so cool. It's so interesting to hear your journey and experience. And yeah, interesting point about the inclusiveness as well. I think some brands are getting way better at it, but there is still a lot of room for improvement. And yeah, like you say, that is an average, or even like 14, 16 is like an
Yeah.
average now,
Yeah.
which there's not a lot of. Um,
No.
Yeah, and I love that you went to the original dress that you had like pinned and dreamed about for so long. It's so funny when that happens because often people think they're going to like something and then go for something completely different, but it's
Exactly.
always the one for you.
It was, and everyone had said to me, like, "I don't think you'll get that dress," and mum was like, because 'cause I've got quite a big bust as well, mum was like, "I just don't think that dress is gonna, like, suit you," and I was like, "No, like, it is, that's gonna be my dress," and it was. Maybe I manifested it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's good intuition or something. You just
Yeah.
knew. Love that. And did you have a bridal party? And if so, how was that process choosing them? Did you find that quite easy?
Yes, so I did have a bridal party. So we agreed early on that we would do 2 either side. So I had, I guess you could call her my maid of honor. So I had one, male and one female. So one of my best friends is gay, so he was just, I call him my bride's gay. He came along and was the other 2. So, it was hard because I had one other friend that I've been friends with since high school, and I was like, I'm in an R-ing, but we just really liked the look of 2 either side. But it turns out she was my hairdresser anyway, so she pretty much was like in the bridal, just didn't sit at the table, the bridal party. Like it was nice to have her involved, but yeah, it was kind of difficult picking between them. But my bridal party were amazing on the wedding day.
So good, all worked out in the end. How about your guest list? Did you find that quite difficult to narrow down? How many did you end up having?
Yeah, so that was really difficult. So we invited 60, and I think we had maybe like 5 or 6 pull out the week of the wedding. So we just had like quite a few people were unwell, and it just sort of like worked out that way. So yeah, it was kind of tricky to navigate the guest list. So my husband and I agreed that we would split it dead down the middle, so 30 each, and that was kind of like the fairest way to make sure that, he got 30 people that he wanted, I got 30 people that I wanted, and then, yeah, we sort of like negotiated on the last probably sort of like 6 people. We also had a rule of no partners at our wedding. So I was a really big believer in not having people at the wedding that either of us only met for the first time. I just think, weddings are so expensive. It's just an awkward interaction. Yeah, so we had agreed that that was the case, which I think upset some people. At the end of the day, it was our wedding day. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally fair enough. It's always so interesting to see how people figure that out. And yeah, the split down the middle is super interesting as well. I feel like 30 people is not that much when you think about like everyone in your life, especially if you have a big family. But yeah, having some parameters is also super helpful sometimes. And can you tell us a bit about the big day? How did it all go down? And yeah, any highlights or favorite moments?
Yes, so our wedding was the first weekend of November. We'd picked that date originally because I wanted peony roses in my wedding bouquet, but then I ended up doing dried flowers, so that didn't really matter. But the wedding was beautiful. It was actually supposed to be rainy, thunderstorms, and hail on our wedding day, and I had been freaking out about it like the week before the wedding. I was honestly so stressed, and I remember I stayed at my friend's house the night before the wedding, and he got up in the morning and he goes, "I don't want to say anything, but it's really hot outside." And I was like, "Oh, don't, like, you're just going to jinx it." And it turned out it was beautiful. It was so hot on the wedding day, like full sun all day. It was really beautiful. So our wedding started at 3. I spent the morning, I took my dog for a run along the beach. Her and I just had some time together, and then we all got ready at my mum's house and then drove out to the venue. My dad drove me and my bridal party out. We borrowed a Thunderbird from my work. The owner who owns my work owned a Thunderbird, so that was really cool because it was bright red, which really stood out with kind of like the rust orange tones of our wedding. And then, yeah, we got married, and I feel like it happened so quickly that it almost was just like a blur. But it, yeah, was so beautiful. I loved that Connor and I took some time after the ceremony and after the photos and everything had happened. We just took some time to like walk along the vines, just him and I, to be like, wow, we're actually married now, which was really nice. Yeah, and just to have everyone together was awesome. I had some family come over from London, which I hadn't seen for 7 years, so to share it with them was just so awesome. Yeah, we just had the best day.
Yeah, sounds like it was amazing. Weather's always a big stressor as well, but it turned out perfectly. Can you tell me a bit about the like DIY elements of your day as well, what you guys ended up doing?
Yes, so we DIY'd quite a bit. So we were really lucky. Connor's groomsman is an alcohol distributor, so all of our booze was really cheap, and we just did all of that ourselves, which was awesome. I did all of the florals. So the florals at our wedding had actually been sourced from my whole garden, my mum's garden. Pretty much everyone that we knew, I was like to them, "What have you got in your garden? Can I come and pick them?" So for like a year prior, we'd been, like foraging florals and drying them in the hot water cupboard and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, that was probably the main part of the DIY. I made all of the confetti throwers. So I got old music paper and taped them into a cone and then filled it with the rose petals from my rose bushes, and then that was how we did our confetti. And I made like a wedding magazine as sort of like our wedding favor, I think you could say. So DIY'd that. Yeah, we made some signs and some other bits and bobs. Connor made the donut wall, all of that sort of stuff. I was quite like budget conscious for our wedding, so if I could do anything myself, I did. And I did my own makeup too. Actually, I did my own makeup. Yeah, so I used to do makeup when I was a uni student for people, and I quite like doing my own makeup. So that was a big thing for me to like save costs. I knew that I could do what I wanted myself.
It's super interesting to hear about all those things. And yeah, sounds like you've got an amazing garden as well. And I guess you can keep your flowers as well when they're dried too. So
And
super
that was like a
special.
big thing. Yeah, that was a big thing for me too, was I was able to keep them. And it's actually funny, I went to a wedding last weekend for one of my friends, and she used my bouquet as her bouquet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Special. I feel like sometimes people's wedding decor ends up being like their house decor, and you can
Yeah.
sort of keep it with that vibe too. What did you find the hardest part about the whole wedding planning process? Is there anything you look back on and regret or would do a bit differently?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any regrets I have. I think one of the hardest things for me was managing other people's expectations of our wedding. I found that really difficult to navigate, and I think it's quite unfair that people have expectations as a guest at a wedding. Yeah, I don't think I'd change anything at all. Maybe my shoes, because my shoes were horrifically uncomfortable, and I ended up wearing my Birkenstocks for the whole wedding day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so, yeah, that was quite funny, but other than that, I feel like the wedding went without a hitch, like, everything went really smoothly. Yeah, and there definitely wasn't anything where I thought, "Oh, I'd do that differently next time." Like, our food was beautiful, our cake was amazing, like, yeah, everything that was important went really well.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Glad the actual day went really well. But yeah, it's definitely hard navigating all those opinions and people that just come out of the woodwork with their, yeah, unsolicited
Yeah.
advice. And yeah, it just seems to happen around weddings sometimes. Did you guys have a budget that you were working with? If you're happy to talk about how much that was, ballpark figure, and yeah, how you went with that whole side of it?
Yeah, so originally I said I didn't want the wedding to cost more than $10,000. Which we were pretty close, I reckon. I probably stopped counting once we got to about 12,000, but I was talking with someone actually in the weekend, and I don't think it would have been any more than 14. So I feel like that was pretty cheap. $14,000 for 60 people probably wasn't actually too bad. I was quite lucky that my mum bought my wedding dress, and my parents contributed, to the wedding, and so did my husband's parents. So we were lucky in that aspect. But I think probably would have been about 14,000 for everything, which I think is hearing other people's wedding budgets. I like am like, oh my gosh. But yeah, like think we had a really beautiful wedding for 14. Maybe if I could have done it on the cheap. I'm a real like tight ass. So spending money really freaks me out. So when I say $14,000 for one day, I kind of cringe. But when I look back at my wedding video and my wedding photos, I'm like, oh, that was actually really nice.
Super impressive and honestly quite unheard of these days. Yeah, anyone that's under that sort of like 20 mark now, and that, yeah, you had like a decent amount of guests and a nice venue and everything. So, yeah, super interesting to hear that it can be done. And yeah, cool again to hear about those things that you decided to DIY and you just can like prioritize what you want to spend on and then do other things yourself.
Yeah, and that was like a big thing for us being able to prioritize. So like a big thing for me was food. Like I didn't want anybody to go hungry. Our food vendors. So I don't know if it's cheeky, but I just said to them, they had a wedding menu, but then they also had like just a general food menu. And I rang the lady up and I said, can we pay for the food, rather than getting the wedding menu? Because they were almost identical, slightly different. But one was sort of $12 more per head versus the other one. And she was like, oh yeah, you can order whatever you want, it doesn't matter that it's a wedding. It didn't matter to them. I think the minimum was like 40 people, so our food only cost us, I'm pretty sure it was only like $1,400 for everyone.
Wow.
And it was beautiful. We had the food, there was so much left over. We were eating it for ages, and everyone, even now when I see people, 6 months on, they say, my gosh, like the food you had was amazing. So, I just sort of asked them, I just said to them, look, this is our budget for food. I can't afford to go over that. And then I said to the lady, what can you do for that price? And then she said, yeah, do that. And yeah, I kind of did that with sort of everyone. I just said, this is what we've got to play with. Can you meet us there? What can you, not do to meet us in that price? And yeah, a lot of the time they sort of did come down to that, figure, which was, I probably would say that's why we managed to keep it on the cheaper end.
Yeah, it's definitely worth asking. Yeah, there's no harm in that. I think food is often one of the biggest expenses for people. So
Yeah,
that's amazing as well. And then, yeah, tell people what your budget is and if they can meet it, that's great advice.
exactly. And like the worst thing they're gonna say is no. And like I wasn't rude when I was asking, like I was realistic with what I was willing to pay. And then if they said, oh well, I can't do it at that price, but I can do it at this price, which is still less than what the advertised price was, then I was like, cool, let's do that.
Totally. There's some room for negotiation with some vendors. So may as well have a friendly chat and see.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, as long as you're nice about it, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so good.
And the photos and videos for me were like a non-negotiable. I wanted a videographer, which we were really lucky because our original photographer actually pulled out on us like 9 months before the wedding. So we had had that like locked in, paid, the deposit, and then he's like, "Oh no, I can't. I'm going overseas." And we were sort of like, "Oh my gosh, November's the start of wedding season, like." And I knew that we only had XYZ dollars, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to not get a video," and that's like the one thing that I really wanted. But luckily, we had an amazing photographer. He was just like insanely great.
Oh, so good. Glad that worked out because I can imagine that's quite stressful and people do book out really far in advance. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
for
to
sure.
get
Yeah.
someone quickly. And did you guys go on honeymoon straight away? What did planning that look like?
We kind of did and kind of didn't. So we actually did a cruise before the wedding, which was kind of like a backwards honeymoon. And then we'd said, okay, we're not going to do a trip because we'd hoped that we're going to do Europe this year. But obviously, with the price of everything, it's just not feasible. So we actually went to Melbourne on Christmas Day, which was like our honeymoon. So we flew out at 6 a.m. and spent our honeymoon in Melbourne, which was really nice. And it was kind of last minute because the wedding was in November and we booked it like after the wedding. So it was super kind of just last minute, like let's do that and go and do a honeymoon over there, which was fun.
And were there any helpful websites, resources, different apps that you use during the planning process in terms of like inspo, finding vendors, all of that?
Yeah, so I actually found most of our stuff on the Canterbury Brides wedding page, I think it was. So we actually had our celebrant pull out like 4 months before the wedding. So it's kind of like a bit of a not very nice story, but he got in trouble with the law. We'd picked him, paid for him because we were going to do a half Te Reo Māori ceremony, half um, English speaking ceremony, and he was the only one in Christchurch that could do that. And then there was a bit of scandal happened there, so I remember posting on that page and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need a celebrant." And then this lady actually offered to do it for free because he wasn't going to give us our money back in the beginning, and that was really sweet. So that page was super helpful. And Instagram, I feel like I found most of my inspiration from Instagram. I was quite lucky, I guess, having one bridesmaid and one bridesman because I actually didn't really care what they wore as long as they were both in rust orange. I said, like, wear what you want. So for me, like those details, I know a lot of people look at bridesmaids' dresses and they want them either like similar or the same or different colors or whatever. Whereas I just was like, he just needs to wear either a rust orange blazer or a rust orange pair of pants. Don't really care otherwise. And I just said to my bridesmaid, you and I can sit one night and pick a dress that you like in that color. And that's pretty much, yeah, it. So I feel like Instagram was really helpful, probably TikTok as well, just because I think that's like constantly evolving, with what you can do for the wedding. I think that's where I found the wedding magazine idea.
Yeah, cool. So good. Definitely popular ones for a reason. And yeah, super interesting what you said with your bridal party as well. It's another reason that two is quite a good number and just easy to, yeah, work with, not finding a whole lot of dresses or
Yeah,
suits or whatever. And do you have any advice that you would give to couples planning their wedding at the moment?
yes, definitely think really hard if it's what you want. I loved my wedding day and I don't regret doing a big wedding, but I also think about it and think how much we could have got if we'd eloped somewhere. And there's a lot of pressures on brides and grooms, in the lead up to weddings from, family, friends, people who aren't invited. There is a lot of stress and I just think the expectations thing is quite big. Everyone's got an opinion on what should or shouldn't be done. So I think, a wedding day is beautiful, but I also think a wedding day could be beautiful by the beach with three people. So I think it's just, making sure that you're not going over and above what you can afford to impress other people is really important. We really wanted to stick within our means and didn't want some big fluffy day, just for everyone else. I think, consider your guest list really carefully because we really invited people that we knew were going to be in our lives 15 years from now. So really considering your guest list and, what they mean to you and, how that friendship or relationship is going to evolve in, the years to come. You should have people there that support your marriage and your relationship, not just there for a free bar.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such great advice. Yeah, I love what you said. Just thinking about what you want, not trying to impress others. And yeah, so about like focusing on what actually matters. You're getting married to the love of your life. And yeah, you don't need to spend like 10 grand on flowers necessarily if you don't want to. If you do, then
No.
pop off. But yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that it's important for guests to also recognize that it's a privilege to be invited to a wedding.
Mm.
Really understand that the couple wants you there for a reason. It's not just for you to have a whinge about their food or that they didn't have flowers that you liked or whatever. I think that it's a real big privilege to be invited to a wedding and be part of a wedding. Is a really, yeah, a big it's a big moment in other people's lives, which I think guests probably need to consider a bit more. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some people don't necessarily get that until they've planned their own wedding,
Yeah.
maybe. But yeah, it definitely gives you perspective once you have. And yeah, just be like so appreciative of your friends when they invite you to theirs or whatever. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and what is married life like now? Do you feel like you got any of those post-wedding blues?
No, definitely did not get post-wedding blues. Felt like I had a weight lifted off my shoulder.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely felt that way. I really enjoy married life. It's nice to know that now I've got a partner that I'm gonna spend forever with. And just to like solidify our relationship, I mean, Connor and I've been together for what feels like a lifetime now. We've done, all of those big life events together. But to say like, oh, he's my husband is still quite strange. But, it's really beautiful too because I feel like, we're now entering the next chapter of our lives as husband and wife, and, it kind of cements that we're our own family unit now, which is really beautiful. It's him, me, and the dog, and that's our little family unit. And Connor said such a beautiful, um, he said a really beautiful thing in his wedding speech about, him and I argue about who loves who the most, but I'll always be the one that he'll always love me more. And I just think that a wedding is beautiful and a marriage is beautiful, but to have that life partner is really sweet. Yeah, I think he probably maybe got wedding blues. I don't know that I did.
Oh. It's definitely nice to get a bit of your time back from all the
Yeah.
planning. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it just feels like constant because 'cause you're constantly, like, ringing people to make sure that, like, this person's gonna be there. And I had what I call a wedding bible, so it was all everyone's number in the bridal party was there. I had clear files with, like, everyone's details, and I gave it to my, best friend Richard, his partner. I said to DJ on the day, "This is your day, like, you are the coordinator, essentially." Yeah, so and then when it was said it was gonna rain, I actually didn't have a wet weather plan, and I said to him, "If it rains, that's on you. I don't care what you do." And he, even now he always jokes and says like, "Oh, the wedding Bible was great because I could flick through and know like who was supposed to be where." And yeah, just all of that sort of stuff. So that's a huge tip. Make sure I think like have it all printed out and in one place, and then you've just like got it. If you know someone doesn't turn up, then DJ who wasn't involved in the planning in the beginning has the celebrant's number or whatever.
So good. That's such great advice. You sound like you were super organized and
Yeah,
definitely the right attitude to just like hand it over to someone. It's not your problem anymore. It's just about you
yeah,
enjoying the day on the day. And yeah, if you don't have a coordinator, then have that sort of point person that people can ask questions to and not come to you as the bride or the groom all the time.
exactly. And like I said to my friend at her wedding, this weekend just been, I said, at the end of the day, if it all turns to crap, it doesn't matter because there's only like six people in the whole entire party that knows what was supposed to happen. So, like, my donuts got bought out with the grazing table, and they were supposed to be dessert. And I can remember like walking around the corner, and I was like, "It's okay." I was the only one that, me, Connor, and then the bridal party were the only ones that knew that was dessert. I was like, "Oh well, I just hope nobody's hungry after dinner."
Oh, so good. Definitely had that right attitude. And then, yeah, I love what you said about marriage. It's not necessarily like a big change. I don't know, something different about it and that like solid commitment as well. So good.
Yeah, for sure. And then knowing that you've got a husband, I still sometimes forget to call him my husband. I'm like, oh gosh, that's right. Like, what do I call you now?
Yeah. Amazing. Been so lovely to chat to you today. Is there anything else you want to add or say to engage people as we wrap up?
No, I think just enjoy it because it honestly does fly by so quick. Like there was parts when we got our photos back and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't even remember that happening." So just really be present in the moment and enjoy what you've worked so hard for. It's like having a second job or a baby, planning a wedding. It really is like time consuming, and I feel like a lot of people forget to enjoy that and just enjoy your new husband or wife or whatever, and enjoy the moment because you'll never get that time back.
Amazing. Great advice. Thank you so much for coming on.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me.